In the mid to late 2000s, there were a few animes and mangas that were making a name for themselves. They were becoming staple names amongst the anime fandom as they evolved into being a cultural phenomena that would define those times as animes. One of these animes was of course Naruto, an iconic name for many of us. But as time went on, the popularity dwindled and many newer stuff began to come out. So today I asked, does Naruto still hold up to its former glory? My name is Ro, and today I'm joined by my friend Mikey from the channel Mikey Yubi as we discuss Naruto and compare it to many other series today and if it holds up or if it doesn't. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name's Mikey from Mikey Yubi. I'm a YouTube channel that mainly focuses on Naruto analysis videos, and yeah, it's great to be here and talk about my favorite series of all time.
So before we go further into whether Naruto, how it is compared to other series, I just want to ask you as a general question, do you think it holds up to its former glory or not? And like a short answer.
I do believe it does. You know, obviously Naruto isn't a perfect series. I think as time goes on, people are gonna pick out more flaws and stuff, but then I also think as time goes on, people then start to realize like, wow, certain aspects of this series were actually like really great, you know, like in recent times we've seen this with Bleach. You know, Bleach had a very bad reputation before, but now everyone's starting to realize like how actually great of a series it was. And like to be general, to list a few things from Naruto, I'd say like the characters, the fights, the like ideologies that are like brought up in the series is really impactful, and it like sticks with you forever. Like it stuck with me forever, and like I'm not just a blind Naruto fan that just enjoys everything about Naruto. Like, I don't like everything about it, but like, I don't think there's anything wrong with praising what it does well, you know? I think it still like holds up to current shounen.
Okay, so before we discuss how it holds up to current shounen, I think it's important to discuss whether Naruto held up well to its like, you know, past contemporaries. Like, you know, there was, as you mentioned, Bleach, and then also, you know, the giant of shonen, One Piece. So as Naruto went on, you know, it had many different comparisons made, even to its past and its past predecessors, as well as, you know, its future stuff. You know, people often say that the Naruto's, you know, one of its greatest arcs was the Chunin exams, and people say that it was, you know, a bit of a replica of the Hunter exams from Hunter x Hunter, right? But you know, to its own credit, the Chunin exams I felt were done much better than the Hunter exams were, and held so much more, you know, vital cogs to the, you know, first Naruto series itself, right? But how would you say Naruto compared to, you know, Bleach, One Piece, Hunter x Hunter, you know, those big shonens of those times?
Well, I'd say like, so like, first of all, even with like the big three, I think there's a reason why like each of them are like so great. Like, I feel like they all built upon the idea of what we thought was like, you know, ninjas, pirates, and soul reapers, you know. With Naruto, characters aren't dressed up, you know, in all black and stuff, covering their faces all the time. It like really brought like a new name to what it meant to be a ninja. Like, for example, Naruto, he's dressed up in all bright orange, and like that can seem as like a really weird choice for a ninja who's supposed to be quiet and stuff like that, but like it really matches like Naruto's personality.
I think that's one thing which is brilliant to discuss, because I feel like Naruto's character design is one of the greatest, because you know, he's a kid who's trying to, you know, stand out. He's a kid who's trying to be noticed, and that was his main reason for doing the pranks and stuff he did at the start of like the Naruto series, right? Because he really wanted people to see him, right? And he would go at any length to make people see him. And Kishimoto's, you know, conscious choice to make him wear a bright orange attire, right? You know, people often clowned on him for like the orange jumpsuit, right? But I think it was a brilliant character design, you know, and I feel like that sort of character design is not copied, I would say, is taken inspiration from many other series, you know. For example, right now, Deku from My Hero Academia, he wears a very green, subtle color because that's the type of character he is. And many times we start seeing, you know, a character's attire represent the person he is, and that's where, you know, good character design comes in too, right? So, you know, you brought up that point, so I really wanted to make that, you know, little comparison there. Go on.
No, yeah, 100%. Like you're saying, there's been like a lot of care and thought of how like the characters look, like even with like, you know, people like Rock Lee and Mike Guy. I don't know what the like particularly dressed in, but it's the type of clothing you'd wear when you're just like working out all the time, and like it matches the like characteristics and stuff like that. So I always like really appreciated that part of Naruto.
One thing which is important when we're discussing these like series, right? As you said before, it's important to acknowledge that they're not perfect, right? They all have its flaws. When you're looking at Naruto, there's obviously some flaws there. Like in One Piece, there's obviously some flaws in, the pacing, right? Especially in the anime, a lot more in the anime than in the manga. In Naruto, there's obviously a lot of like, minor writing flaws which creep in, and maybe even some art flaws near the end of Shippuden. In Bleach, again, a few writing flaws, again, which like creep in. But what would you say, in order to discuss Naruto and its former glory, it's important to discuss its, flaws of those time as well. What would you say is Naruto's greatest flaw?
I'd say Naruto's probably greatest flaw that like a lot of people pick up on is that some characters, like are unfortunately like forgotten about, like Rock Lee and stuff like that. Though like I have defended like certain characters like Neji, for example. Like I feel like Neji's character arc was kind of like, it felt like it was fully wrapped up in like OG Naruto, like with his fight with Naruto, and then like against the Sound 4 as well. Like he truly realized the type of person he wanted to be. And I feel like people feel like Neji's character was wasted because like he just doesn't show up as much. And I think that would have been nice to see these characters like at least show up more, not like necessarily get a whole character arc to themselves. Like Shikamaru, for example, in Shippuden, like I think Shikamaru like holds up very well throughout the entirety of the series. Like even like characters like Ino and stuff like that, they actually got a chance to like do something proper instead of just being the shadow of like it's starting to become the like Naruto and Sasuke show, like towards the end point, especially in like the war,
I think that's probably my biggest flaw with Naruto is a sidelining of some of the characters, For example, you brought up the Neji example. I completely agree, the whole dynasty element and stuff was all pretty well wrapped up in like the span of like the first Naruto series itself. And realistically, Neji's character had no reason to, make it to Shippuden. I know that sounds a little bit morbid, but how cool would have Orochimaru's whole story arc been if, he killed off Neji, for example.
No, yeah.
Right? In the invasion of Konoha little arc. So, also Rock Lee is probably my favorite character in all of Naruto. I still hold up the saying that pre-time skip Naruto isn't really the same as, the god Naruto we see by the end of the series, right?
Yeah.
I feel like if Rock Lee was in Naruto's shoes, it probably would have made more sense as the underdog type of character, which it was initially going for, right?
Yeah.
So it was really disappointing for me to see Rock Lee get sidelined so much. But, it's unfortunate. But, we addressed one of Naruto's greatest flaws. What do you think is Naruto's biggest strength?
So I feel like we're gonna talk about this more deeply probably later on when comparing against like other shonen like present day. But I feel like one of the standpoints of Naruto has always been like the fights, and it's not like a meathead situation where like, I just like people fighting each other, punching in the face, that's kind of cool. Like I think Naruto fights are really built differently, which people not to be a meme, but like people don't like actually like understand it all that well. Like even like I'd say the first fight of Naruto and Sasuke at the final valley, like that's always going to be like the high point for me of like what truly like an anime fight can truly be a manga fight as well. Like it's because like even though like everything is so exciting and intense, it's really like underneath everything that is really just like a somber fight of both characters that never wanted like this kind of fight to happen. Like it's a clash of two different kinds of loneliness that become a fight no one expected to like unravel this way. And by that I mean, of course, people expected Naruto and Sasuke to fight under normal circumstances, like I'd say the Chunin exams, but they never expected like a fight that would turn out to be like a struggle to save a friend from entering like a deep pit of loneliness, that Naruto had experienced himself. And like, I know we're talking about the manga mainly, but I feel like the anime does like a much better job when it comes to the fights in Naruto because of how like just like exaggerated everything is and expressive, like that, how they like change the animation up and stuff like that. Like I think it's really great.
I think that's one really, it's probably its best trait, but sometimes it also goes underrated a bit, which is the fight choreography of Naruto, right?
Oh no, yeah, without that.
It's one of the most brilliant fight choreographies in probably anime in general. right? You know, of course, there's some series which, you know, probably do fight choreography itself better, right? You know, more recently, you see it with more prominence, like stuff like, you know, we've recently seen God of High School, which, you know, very garbage story, but my God, was that those fights were like brilliant to see, right? It reminded me a bit of the OG Naruto, I think, which is why I kept up with the series, just because of those fight scenes. And, you know, talking about it, you know, other shows like One Piece and Bleach. I'll just take for One Piece, for example, because I'm more, you know, I'm more knowledgeable about One Piece than Bleach because I researched more into it. One Piece's fights, right? Nobody really comes to One Piece for the fights. People come to One Piece for the emotional aspect of the fights itself, right? So, you know, if you see something like Luffy versus Lucci, right? It was building up an emotional moment. But the fight itself was pretty standard, where, you know, it's just, okay, Luffy punched Lucci, Lucci punched Luffy, right? But in Naruto, in certain times, you probably won't have that big emotional string of build-up. But for example, in the Naruto and Sasuke fight, there was such a big emotional string of build-up. And the fight itself, right? You know, while you're watching that or reading that, you can feel the cathartic emotion of each of the punches the characters threw, right?
No, yeah, it's great because like you brought up God of High School as well, and like while the fights look good in that, it's like you feel like so like detached from it all. And like with Naruto and Sasuke, it's not just a constant like back and forth fight, but like there's these breakout moments where like you can see the characters like frustrations with each other. Like I forever like cemented in my head the panel of like Sasuke screaming at Naruto saying, "You were alone right from the beginning, what can you possibly know about me?" You know, like it is really just like a somber fight hidden behind all this like intensity and like flashy moments. Like it's great. I love it.
Yeah, to me, I value, you know, much more than a fight. I really value the emotional impact behind a fight. And, you know, another big shonen is Dragon Ball, right? So for me, in Dragon Ball, especially the latter stages of Dragon Ball, maybe during the Buu arc and even like all of Super, I found no sort of, you know, emotional stakes behind anything. Okay, Goku gets a new form, yay. Why should I be happy? Meanwhile, when, you know, KCM Naruto or something like that, you know, came out, you know, you felt like the emotional aspect as well as the hype. Like, dude, this kid, like, he's achieving something. When Naruto first goes into his tailed beast form, and during the, you know, first Naruto and Sasuke fight, you know, you really feel like this kid is struggling. He's not coping up with himself because of those emotional moments. And, you know, Dragon Ball really lacked those emotional moments at that point in time. That's another reason why I really got attached to Naruto, because of those emotional scenes, right? I can still go back and watch, you know, Naruto versus Pain. I know people really meme on like, you know, the animation style changed of Naruto versus Pain. And then, you know, that one meme panel always comes up. But
yeah, my pain is far greater than yours and stuff.
Yeah. But, you know, like you really can't undermine the, you know, the rich intensity of that fight itself, right? And in general, most fights in Naruto, right? You just feel such a great connection. And I think that's one of the places where, you know, people always clown on the war arc, you know, for taking off Madara and bringing in Kaguya. I think that emotional aspect wasn't there. Maybe that's why, you know, the Kaguya fight is, you know, not talked about at all. Rather, people talk about the final Naruto Sasuke fight rather than the Kaguya fight, because, you know, that build-up was there. You know, it wasn't like...
No, yeah, because the build-up was like constantly there, like all throughout the war and stuff like that. But meanwhile, Kaguya and all of this like stuff, it was happening so quickly, we didn't have time to like digest it all, you know?
Yeah, and I think that was one of the bigger flaws of like the war arc, where, you know, I feel like it was more written week to week than it was written with a huge, you know, plan ahead. So, you know, that thing can work well, but that thing can also, you know, come back and bite you back. But that brings me to my next question to ask you. So we discussed a bit of, you know, the Naruto fight scenes, you know, the characters as well, and where, you know, Naruto lacked and, you know, stood out. But do you think in today's scene where, you know, animes like Black Clover, Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man are popping up, do you think Naruto would still hold up to those animes which have obviously had time to look at the flaws Naruto had and, you know, address them? For example, you know, Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man Part 1, if you guys don't know, ended in 97 chapters, but it had a full coherent story told as well. Which maybe Naruto, you know, if it wrapped up after the Pain arc, you know, maybe would have been recognized as more of a, you know, a greater piece of storytelling than it is at this point in time right now. So what's your take on all that?
So yeah, I feel like, especially when it comes to the anime, you know, if filler is always like the issue that kind of stretches out the series as well. But like if we're just talking about the manga, then yeah, I feel like I don't agree with like a lot of people when they say, you know, it could have ended after Pain, because you know we still have like everything with Obito, Sasuke, you know, the other villages hadn't been like explored all that much. There was still like a lot more potential for like Naruto to continue. I just feel like the war arc was like, it was too like incredibly stretched out, you know, there was too much stuff happening. And like, even though all of the characters felt like they were together at one point, you know, we have like all of the like OG teams from the tuning exams, like they kind of only get that one moment to shine, and then like that's kind of it. It just goes back to being like Naruto and Sasuke, you know. So I feel like, because like you said, you brought up Chainsaw Man, shorter stories do work like a lot better. And well, I'm not sure if like Naruto would have worked for a shorter story. I do remember Kishimoto did say in an interview that I think he only expected Naruto to go on for like 12 volumes or something, and that's literally the runtime of like Chainsaw Man, you know. And it's a bit weird because I don't see it going for like 12 volumes, you know, because then like all that stuff with Itachi and Madara and stuff like that kind of gets all thrown out of the window, and the Akatsuki. It's just, I feel like Pain was kind of the big kind of like peak moment for Naruto, you know, that the series had been building upon for like years. Like all of the Akatsuki were pretty much like all gone, and it was just kind of like the main kind of big boss was there, you know. But yeah,
I think definitely Kishimoto probably didn't expect it to go as well as it did. I think the same thing happened with Eiichiro Oda and probably Tite Kubo as well, where, you know, they wanted, you know, a short, like a few years worth of story, and then the more they went into it, and as it happens with most brilliant artists and mangakas, where, you know, they see room for improvement, they see room for, you know, expansion. And, you know, I'm all for that, because, you know, if Naruto hadn't been expanded as much as it had, I probably wouldn't have gotten my favorite arc in Naruto, which was, you know, the Hidan and Kakazu arc with Shikamaru, which was, I think, one of its best arcs, apart from, you know, the Pain arc and the Land of Waves arc. So do you think, let's just talk about, you know, comparing it more to, you know, the bigger shonen of today, you know, let's just say Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer, which have, you know, become this big entity where it's, you know, grown like far more than the anime fan itself, you know. Back in the day, I remember if I were to say like, hey, I'm a Naruto fan, you know, you would be classified as like some weird, like socially inept weeb, right? Where today, you know, you have like some big creators just saying, yo, Demon Slayer episode 19, or like, you know, dude, Jujutsu Kaisen was so awesome. So do you think that just is because of the evolution of like time itself, where, you know, anime itself has gotten so big? Or do you think it has something to do with the series and its, you know, appeal to mainstream?
well, I would say like the world is like, it's completely different, you know, now compared to what it used to be like when, you know, Naruto, Bleach and One Piece were like at the prime of their popularity, you know. A lot more people are into anime and manga. The industry itself is kind of recognizing like, okay, we need to like just be releasing like some quality good shows, you know. We don't have time to stretch out some filler into it, you know. I think that's one of the reasons why like JJK and Demon Slayer work so well, because they're fast paced, straight to the point, they look beautiful, you know. And unfortunately with series like Naruto, especially when it comes to the anime, you know, we have filler, we have episodes that don't look as great as others, you know. And even if like the payoff can be worth it, you know, sometimes it's like that stretch is like really like hard to bear with.
So let's just talk about Naruto as an entity in general, you know, as like a cultural phenomena, as I mentioned before, and, you know, how like Naruto has impacted you.
So yeah, with Naruto, you know, my whole channel is based on Naruto, and like it holds a special place in my heart, you know. And some people are like, oh, well, you can't say this, you know, that isn't you like evaluating a show properly. But I'm like, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying what kind of hit you personally about the show and why it might be your favorite, you know. Because like with Naruto, I discovered it as a kid, and, you know, I didn't really have a good experience at school, you know. I was fat, I was bullied and stuff like that. But when I watched Naruto, it really hit home with me, because, you know, I could kind of connect with Naruto. I didn't have a demon fox sealed inside of me, you know. But like, I felt kind of like an outcast, you know. I didn't have many friends and stuff like that. I was bullied. And so seeing characters like Naruto or even like Rock Lee, you know, continue to work hard and stuff like that, it really was like inspiring for me to like do something about my life, and you know, I lost weight because of it. I grew more confident and stuff like that. Like I would no way be making like a YouTube channel now if it wasn't for Naruto, you know. Like this is really like out of my comfort zone, but like it's always something like I wanted to do, and like Naruto has really like helped me through that. Of course I don't say, oh, Naruto is a 10 out of 10 because of that, you know. Like I don't think Naruto is a 10 out of 10. Like maybe for me personally it is, but like when I'm evaluating it properly, it in no way is. But like I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying what kind of hit you about the show on a personal level, you know.
I think it's very important to, you know, differentiate between subjectively and objectively, you know, looking at a series, right? You know, Naruto and its impact on me when I was growing up was massive as well, because, you know, Naruto was one of the first animes I used to connect with a friend, where, you know, a friend really liked Naruto and he himself was going through a tough time. I liked Naruto, and though I wasn't like, you know, going through like as bad of an experience as he was because he had a medical issue, right? It still helped the both of us bond because we were both, you know, fans of Naruto, and you know, every week when a new chapter would come out, you know, we would call up each other, you know, discuss, you know, the latest ongoings, right? It's like little things like that which also matter. And series like Naruto, which are like these long running series, you know, you grow up with them. You grow up with Naruto, you know, when Naruto was a kid, I was a kid. When Naruto grew up, I grew up, you know, as Naruto changed, exactly. I changed, right? So that sort of connection, I don't think you would get that in like, you know, short running series, right? I don't think I am growing up with Tanjiro. Like that wouldn't happen. But, you know, it's really cool to like see, you know, that sort of growth, and as you yourself grow, those ideals changing, those, you know, people themselves in the series change as you change. So I think that's something beautiful that Naruto allowed me to experience, and anime and manga in general allows people to experience, because they have so much, you know, meaning behind them. You know, they're pieces of art which people should like, you know, recognize.
No, yeah, 100%.
So do you want to mention like, you know, any last, you know, closing words on why you think Naruto is something that should be watched today?
Yeah, so I feel like don't let a lot of people sway you on like, you know, Naruto being an old show, and like shounen are just kind of like, the shounen now are doing like things better than Naruto has done. And like to some statements like that is true. I think JJK is kind of on the right path with that as well, especially. But I don't think that's a reason to like completely blow off Naruto, you know. It still has some of like the highest points of shonen for me, and like some of the best like antagonists out there, and like really well built up characters like, you know, Madara, who gets foreshadowed like in part 1 with his statue in the final valley, who then like slowly gets revealed on throughout Shippuden till you see his like big entrance against the Shinobi Alliance. Like it's really incredible. And yeah, I just don't think Naruto should be slept on, you know. It's fine to criticize it, but people need to stop seeing Naruto as like just a war arc and saying, you know, oh, it's not worth it because of the war arc, when that's literally like the final section of the series, and you're like dismissing everything else like ahead of it, you know.
Even the war arc itself, holds so much good moments in it, you know. The Kaguya bit is like the final few chapters of the war arc. Like there's a huge and cool Kakashi versus Obito fight. There's a Might Guy moment, you know. Like these moments, right? Like you can't be telling me you were not hyped for that Might Guy moment when, you know, you saw that Might Guy backstory as well, right?
No, yeah, exactly. And then like people need to stop thinking Naruto ends with Kaguya. Like it ends like on a satisfactory like way with Naruto versus Sasuke, you know. And like that's a really great fight, especially in the anime as well.
That was one of the best fights in the series, along with like part 1's Naruto versus Sasuke. And there was also like, you know, cool moments near the start of the series. As I mentioned before, my favorite arc is regarding Hidan, Kakuzu, and Asuma, as well as Shikamaru. You know, like that whole arc itself, I think, is a brilliant arc. I mean, you know, I would go as far as to say it's one of my favorite arcs in shonen in general. You know,
very underrated arc. You know, not a lot of people talk about it.
Yeah, and it's so good because, you know, of the cathartic emotions that it makes you feel. And, you know, Naruto in itself is like an emotion, as cheesy as it sounds. Like it holds such a special place in so many people's hearts. And I think that's something that, you know, people would vibe with, really. And though it may, like, I don't think Naruto's aged poorly whatsoever. Even as time goes on, it'll still be looked at and ranked, fairly high amongst, the anime fandom, where, they will look at it and recognize its cultural value to that point in time. And, also to the present point in time, whenever somebody watches it, because the storytelling is immaculate.
Because even like, online we see a lot of people like comparing like shonens and stuff, and like, I feel like Naruto has cemented itself as like one of the best shonen like out there, even though like it's not perfect, as we say, it has its issues, but I think it's done enough to bring to the table like some great characters, some great themes, some great fights. It's kind of what you look for in a shonen.
So to conclude and answer the question, does Naruto hold up to its former glory? Yes, I think we both can say it does. So
Yeah.
I think this is the end of this long video. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And also check out my friend, Mikey. He's a pretty good guy. Good YouTuber too.
Thank you for having me. It was really, really fun being on here, talking about my favorite show.
Alrighty guys, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.